The emergency sirens blared through the cargo ship's cockpit as Jason Carter fought with the failing controls. Red warning lights flashed across the instrument panel, casting an ominous glow over his sweat-drenched face. Come on, he muttered, wrestling with the yoke as the ship plummeted through the atmosphere of Kepler 186F. The colonial outpost below grew larger by the second, its collection of prefab buildings and landing pads becoming frighteningly distinct. Mayday! Mayday! This is Transport Vessel TC-227. Complete system failure. Controls unresponsive. Impact imminent. Static crackled over the comms. Jason's knuckles whitened on the controls as he tried to level out the ship's nosedive. The ground rushed up to meet him, the ship's hull screaming in protest as it tore through the thin atmosphere. The last thing he saw was the glint of solar panels before everything went black. Pain. Searing, all-consuming pain dragged Jason back to consciousness. Every breath felt like inhaling broken glass. He tried to move, but his body refused to respond. Patient showing signs of consciousness, a melodic voice said somewhere above him. Vital signs critical but stabilizing. Jason forced his eyes open. The stark white ceiling of a medical bay swam into focus. Medical equipment beeped steadily nearby. He turned his head slightly, wincing at the effort, and froze. The doctor checking his vitals wasn't human. Violet skin stretched over elegant features, framed by what looked like tendrils rather than hair. But it was her eyes that captured his attention, liquid silver that seemed to glow from within. "Ah, our pilot awakens," she said, her voice carrying an otherworldly lilt. "I'm Dr. Lorania. You're aboard the Horizon Station medical bay. How ... Jason's voice came out as a rasp. "How bad?" "Multiple fractures, severe internal bleeding, spinal trauma," Lorania listed clinically. "By all rights, you should be dead. The conventional treatments aren't working as well as we'd hoped." Jason closed his eyes as a wave of pain washed over him. "So what now?" "Now," Lorania said, "we try something unconventional." There was an odd note in her voice that made Jason look at her again. She was studying him with an unreadable expression. "What do you mean?" "My species has unique biological properties. We can produce a substance with powerful regenerative capabilities. It could heal you completely." "But," Jason prompted, hearing the hesitation in her voice. Lorania's silver eyes seemed to pierce right through him. "But the treatment requires absolute trust, complete relaxation. Your body must be receptive or it won't work." She leaned closer, and Jason caught a subtle, sweet scent, unlike anything he'd encountered before. Her lips curved in what might have been amusement. "If you want to live," she said softly, "just close your eyes and trust me." Jason swallowed hard. "And if I don't?" "Then we continue with conventional treatment, but..." She gestured to his broken body. "I wouldn't recommend it." The pain chose that moment to spike again, drawing a gasp from Jason. When it subsided, he found Lorania watching him with those mesmerizing silver eyes. "How do I know I can trust you?" he managed. "You don't," she replied simply. "That's rather the point." Before Jason could respond, the medical bay doors hissed open. A human doctor strode in, tablet in hand. "Dr. Lorania, the latest scan results." He trailed off, looking between them. "Am I interrupting something?" "Not at all, Dr. Thompson. I was just discussing treatment options with our patient." Dr. Thompson's expression tightened. "The unconventional one, I assume?" "It's our best chance to save him. It's experimental at best, dangerous at worst." "More dangerous than letting him die?" Lorania's voice carried an edge now. "There are protocols, which I'm fully authorized to bypass in emergency cases." Lorania turned back to Jason. "The choice is yours, pilot, but you'll need to decide soon." Jason looked between the two doctors, mind racing despite the fog of pain. Everything in his training screamed against trusting an unknown alien treatment. But as another wave of agony racked his body, he realized he might not have much choice. "I'll do it," he gasped. Dr. Thompson shook his head. "I'll note my objection in the record." "Noted," Lorania said coolly. "Now, if you'll excuse us." The human doctor left, radiating disapproval. Lorania turned back to Jason with what might have been a smile. "Brave choice," she said. or desperate. Either way, she reached for something out of his view. Close your eyes, pilot, and remember, trust is essential. Jason hesitated for a moment, then let his eyes fall shut. The last thing he heard was Larania's soft laugh. Good boy, she murmured. Now let's begin. A cool sensation spread across Jason's chest, followed by an odd tingling that seemed to seep into his bones. The pain began to dull, replaced by a warmth that reminded him of sunlight on bare skin. Remarkable, Lorania murmured. Your body is accepting the treatment better than expected. Jason wanted to open his eyes to see what she was doing, but fought the urge. What exactly are you? Shh. Relaxation, remember? Though I must say, your curiosity is endearing. Her voice carried a hint of amusement that made his skin prickle. Or maybe that was the treatment. The warmth intensified, spreading through his limbs. Your heart rate is elevating, she noted. Are you nervous, pilot? Having an alien doctor perform experimental treatment tends to do that? She laughed softly. And yet here you are, trusting me with your life. Not like I had much choice. There's always a choice. Her fingers brushed his forehead, sending an electric tingle down his spine. You could have chosen doctor. Thompson's way, slow, painful, uncertain. Instead, I chose the mysterious alien treatment, much more sensible. Ah, humor, a good sign. Something cool pressed against his lips. Drink. The liquid was sweet, with an otherworldly aftertaste he couldn't place. Heat bloomed in his chest, spreading outward in waves. What is this? He managed. Medicine, she said simply. My people's gift. Our curse, some would say. Curse? Another time, perhaps. Focus on healing now. Her hand rested on his chest, right over his heart. Your body is responding well. The warmth became intense, almost uncomfortable. Jason's fingers clutched the sheets. Easy, Larania soothed. Let it happen. Fighting only makes it worse. Is it supposed to burn like this? Your cells are regenerating at an accelerated rate. It's intense, I know. Her voice lowered. But I'll take care of you. The burning sensation peaked, then began to fade. Exhaustion crashed over him like a wave. Sleep now, Lorania whispered. When you wake, we'll see just how well my treatment worked. Jason tried to respond, but consciousness was already slipping away. The last thing he felt was her cool hand on his forehead, and what might have been the brush of lips against his temple. Sweet dreams, brave pilot, she murmured. You're mine now. Jason woke to the soft hum of medical equipment and a lingering warmth in his bones. The pain had dulled to a distant ache, surprising him enough that he tried to sit up. Careful there, adventurous one. Lorania's cool hands pressed him back against the bed. Your body is still adjusting. He opened his eyes to find her silver gaze studying him with clinical interest and something else. Amusement? She wore what appeared to be a standard medical uniform, but the fabric seemed to shimmer against her violet skin. How long was I out? 12 hours. She checked something on the monitors. And you're healing remarkably well, though humans are surprisingly fragile creatures. We manage all right, Jason countered. Oh, is that why you crashed a perfectly good transport ship? Her lips curved in a teasing smile. Very manageable. That wasn't my fault. The systems failed catastrophically, yes. Yet here you are, stubbornly alive. She pressed a hand to his chest, sending that now familiar tingling through his body. Fascinating. Glad I can entertain you, Doctor. Oh, you do. She leaned closer, her scent washing over him, sweet and alien and oddly intoxicating. Your species' determination to survive despite your obvious physical limitations, it's charming. Jason felt his face heat. We can't all be advanced alien beings with magical healing powers. Lorania laughed, the sound like chimes in the wind. Magical? How charmingly primitive. It's simply biology, dear pilot. Speaking of which, she produced a small vial filled with pearlescent liquid. Time for your next treatment. More of your medicine? Unless you'd prefer weeks of conventional recovery? She arched what might have been an eyebrow. I'm sure Dr. Thompson would be delighted to take over your case. I'll pass. Jason eyed the vial. Though I still don't understand how this works. Understanding isn't required, only trust. She uncapped the vial. Close your eyes. You seem to enjoy telling me that. And you seem to enjoy questioning my methods. Her free hand traced along his jaw, sending shivers down his spine. Yet here you are, healing faster than any human should. Curious, isn't it? Jason swallowed hard, trying to ignore how her touch lingered. Maybe I'm just naturally resilient. Is that what you call it? The bed shifted as she sat beside him. I've treated many species, pilot. None quite as interesting as you. Is that a compliment or an insult? Yes. Her laugh ghosted across his skin. Now, are you going to be difficult about your medicine, or shall we proceed? Jason closed his eyes with an exaggerated sigh. Happy? Ecstatic. The coolness of the vial pressed against his lips. Drink. The liquid was sweeter this time, almost honeyed. Heat bloomed in his chest immediately, stronger than before. He gasped. Easy, Lorania murmured. Her hand stroked his hair, oddly soothing. Let it work. It's intense. Yes, well, stubborn patients require stronger doses. Her fingers traced patterns on his scalp, though you're handling it better than expected. Thanks for the vote of confidence. Shh. Less talking, more healing. The warmth spread through his limbs, making him feel oddly weightless. Lorania's touch anchored him as the sensation intensified. You're enjoying this, aren't you? He managed. Having a helpless pilot at my mercy? Whatever gave you that idea? Your bedside manner needs work. She laughed again, the sound seeming to resonate with the heat in his blood. Oh, I don't know. You seem quite comfortable. Must be the drugs. Medicine, she corrected, her fingers stilled in his hair. Though I suppose the effect could be intoxicating. Jason tried to focus through the spreading warmth. Is that why I feel? Yes. Never mind. Now who's enjoying themselves? Her voice carried a distinct smirk. Don't worry, pilot. Your secret is safe with me. The days blurred together in a haze of treatments and recovery. Jason found himself looking forward to Lorania's visits, though he'd never admit it. Her cool touch and teasing manner had become familiar, almost comforting. From her laboratory late at night, Lorania reviewed the genetic data scrolling across her screens. The human pilot's cells showed remarkable adaptation to her treatments. Better than any previous subject, his genetic structure was accepting the modifications, incorporating them seamlessly. She touched the screen, tracing the spiraling DNA patterns. Perfect compatibility, she whispered. Her people's salvation might lie in this stubborn pilot who'd quite literally fallen into her lap. If only. She pushed away from the console, troubled by the warmth that spread through her chest at the thought of him. This was supposed to be clinical, scientific. The fate of her species depended on maintaining professional distance, and yet, during their next treatment session, as the warmth of her medicine spread through his body, Jason couldn't hold back his questions anymore. Why are you doing this? He asked, eyes still closed as per her instructions. Healing you? It's rather my job, pilot. No, I mean... He struggled to focus through the pleasant fog in his mind. Going to such lengths, using your personal medicine, there must be easier ways. Her fingers stilled on his temple, guilt warring with necessity. If he knew the truth. Perhaps I simply enjoy the company, she deflected. A beautiful alien doctor enjoying time with a broken pilot? Seems unlikely. And yet here we are. She traced her fingers along his jaw, monitoring his physiological response while trying to ignore how her own pulse quickened. Though I must say, you're hardly broken anymore. Thanks to you. Indeed. She turned away, ostensibly to check the monitors, but really to hide her expression. The genetic markers in his latest scan were exceeding all projections. Her people's council would be ecstatic. So why did she feel so conflicted? Lorania? Thank you. For everything. She closed her eyes, his gratitude piercing her like a blade. Don't thank me yet, pilot. Later that evening, Jason woke to find Lorania checking his vitals, her violet skin almost luminescent in the dim medical bay lighting. "Can't sleep?" she asked, not looking up from her tablet. "Hard to sleep when your doctor sneaks around in the dark. Monitoring your progress hardly counts as sneaking." She glanced at him, silver eyes glinting. "Though I do enjoy catching you off guard." "I've noticed." He shifted, noting how much easier movement had become. "You're here late. Some patients require extra attention." Her hand brushed his chest, ostensibly checking bandages. The touch lingered, especially the stubborn ones. In her lab, her screens displayed the latest test results, his DNA increasingly intertwined with markers from her species. The experiment was working better than she'd dreamed. So why did professional satisfaction feel increasingly hollow compared to these quiet moments with him? "You know," Jason said, breaking into her thoughts, "for someone so dedicated to healing, you seem to enjoy keeping me here." "Careful, pilot." She leaned closer, letting him catch her alien scent. "I might start thinking you enjoy being kept." His breath caught. "Maybe I'm just getting used to the attention." "Is that what we're calling it now?" Her fingers traced his collarbone, monitoring his pulse while savoring his reaction. "Your heart rate's elevated again. Professional concern?" "Always." But her touch wandered to his neck, belying her words. "Though I must admit, your responses are fascinating. Glad I can provide such interesting data." She laughed softly. "Oh, you provide far more than that." Her hand cupped his cheek. "Close your eyes." "More medicine?" "Something like that." He complied, and she studied his face. Trust where there should be suspicion, attraction where there should be fear. Her people would call this weakness. They'd never understand how this human had slipped past her carefully constructed barriers. "You're stalling," he murmured, "enjoying the view." She uncapped the vial of her specially engineered genetic carrier, disguised as medicine. Each dose brought him closer to being compatible with her species, closer to saving her people, closer to betraying his trust completely. Her hand shook slightly as she pressed the vial to his lips. "Drink." He obeyed without hesitation. The sight made her chest ache. "You trust me too much," she whispered. "Should I not?" Instead of answering, she watched the familiar warmth spread through him. His genetic structure would be especially receptive now, eager to bond with her own. She should be taking samples, recording data. Instead, she found herself stroking his hair, treasuring these stolen moments before everything changed. "Lorania? Yes?" "You never answered my question. About trusting you." She closed her eyes. I didn't. In her lab, screens blinked with successful test results, heralding a breakthrough that could save her species. In the medical bay, her hand trembled against his skin as the line between experiment and emotion blurred beyond recognition. "I think," she said softly, "we're both in dangerous territory now." Because of the treatment? If only he knew. Because some things can't be controlled, even by the most careful science. His hand found hers in the darkness. Maybe that's not always bad. She stared at their joined hands, violet against human skin, a union that could either save or destroy everything she'd worked for. Her people needed this success, needed him. But increasingly, so did she. Days passed, and Jason's recovery progressed faster than any normal human healing should allow. In her private lab late at night, Lorania reviewed her research notes while absently touching the specialized glands beneath her collarbone, the source of her species' remarkable biological gift. Her medicine wasn't synthetic at all, but rather her own produced milk, enriched with healing properties and genetic markers unique to her kind. She watched through the observation window as Jason slept. Her body had begun producing more milk than usual, responding to his presence in ways she hadn't anticipated. It was supposed to be clinical. Harvest the milk, process it, administer it as medicine. Instead, she found herself wanting to feed him directly, an intimate act her species reserved for their closest bonds. "Dangerous thoughts," she muttered, turning back to her data. The next morning, as she prepared his treatment, Jason caught her wrist. "You seem distracted lately," he said, "observant for a patient." She tried to maintain professional distance. even as her body responded to his touch. Maybe I'm just getting better at reading you. His thumb traced patterns on her violet skin. Or maybe you're not as mysterious as you pretend to be. Her glands tingled, responding to his proximity. Careful, pilot. Curiosity can be dangerous. So can secrets. He pulled her closer. What aren't you telling me? Instead of answering, she pressed the vial to his lips. Medicine first, questions later. He drank, and she watched his throat work, imagining a very different method of delivery. Her chest ached with the need to share her true nature, to let him drink directly from her. But that would reveal everything. Her experiment, her people's desperation, her growing feelings that threatened to compromise it all. You're staring, he murmured, eyes still closed. Professional interest. Is that what we're calling it now? His hand found her waist. Your heart's racing. Yours too. She shouldn't lean into his touch, shouldn't let him pull her down beside him on the bed. But her body had other ideas. Lorania? His voice was husky. Whatever you're hiding, whatever this really is, I don't care. If only that were true. She traced his jaw, feeling the warmth of her milk working through his system. Soon his genetic structure would be completely compatible with hers, the perfect specimen to save her species, the perfect man to break her heart. You should care, she whispered, even as she let him draw her closer. You should run far from what I am. Instead, he kissed her. The contact sent electricity through her system, her milk production surging in response. She pulled back, breathing hard. Jason, wait. No more waiting. He caught her face in his hands. No more secrets. Just this. She should stop this, should remember her mission, her people's needs. Instead, she surrendered to the pull between them, even as her body prepared to feed him in ways he couldn't yet understand. In the station's dim corridors late that night, Lorania paced outside the medical bay, her body humming with unspent energy. The latest test showed Jason's DNA was now almost perfectly compatible with her species. Success was within reach. Yet instead of triumph, she felt only turmoil. Inside, Jason stirred in his sleep. Her enhanced senses caught his quickened heartbeat, the slight change in his breathing. Without conscious thought, she moved to his bedside. You should be resting, she murmured as his eyes opened. So should you. He reached for her hand. Instead, you're wearing a path in my floor. Your floor? Getting territorial, pilot? Maybe. He pulled her down to sit beside him. Though you seem to spend more time here than I do. If he only knew. Her glands ached with the need to feed him properly, not through sterile vials but skin to skin. Her people's most intimate act of bonding. Something's bothering you, he said, studying her face. Has been for days. It's complicated. Try me. She touched his chest, feeling how her milk had changed him, strengthened him, made him more like her kind with each dose. What if this isn't just about healing you? I figured that much. His hand covered hers. The question is, why haven't you told me the truth? Her heart stuttered. What do you mean? I'm not stupid, Lorania. Whatever you're giving me, it's more than medicine. I can feel it changing me. She tried to pull away, but he held fast. Jason, no more running. He sat up, bringing them face to face. No more secrets. Tell me what's really happening. The moment stretched between them, fragile as crystal. In her lab, screens displayed the success of her experiment. Here in the darkness, all her carefully laid plans crumbled beneath the weight of his gaze. My people are dying, she whispered. Each generation, fewer survive. Those that do are weaker, their genetics degrading. But you, she touched his face. Your DNA is compatible in ways we never dreamed possible. The medicine I've been giving you, it's not synthetic. It's me, my milk. It carries our genetic markers, healing properties, the essence of what we are. She expected him to recoil. Instead, his grip tightened. You're experimenting on me, healing you, changing you, making you compatible with... She couldn't finish. With you? Her silver eyes met his. Yes. The silence stretched. Then slowly he pulled her closer. Show me. What? No more vials, no more pretense. His hand slipped beneath her collar, brushing the sensitive glands. She gasped, "Show me what you really are." "Jason, you don't understand what you're asking." "I understand enough." His fingers traced her glands, making her shiver. "I understand that every time you feed me, I feel more connected to you. I understand that you're fighting something bigger than just attraction, and I understand that I don't want to fight it anymore." She should resist, should remember her mission, her people's needs. Instead, she let him draw her down, let his hands explore the curves of her alien form. "If we do this," she breathed, "there's no going back. You'll be changed forever." His smile was fierce in the darkness. "Maybe that's exactly what I want." Lorania's silver eyes widened as Jason's fingers traced the sensitive glands beneath her collarbone. Her breath caught as he leaned closer, a knowing smile playing at his lips. "So all this time," he murmured, "you just wanted me to drink directly from you?" A violet flush crept across her skin. "Are you complaining?" "Not at all." His touch grew bolder, making her gasp. "Though you could have just asked." "And risked scaring away my perfect specimen?" She tried for teasing, but her voice trembled. "You humans can be so squeamish about alien biology." "Do I look squeamish?" His lips brushed her neck, finding the spot where her glands pulsed strongest. "Though I have to admit, this wasn't what I expected when I crashed on your station." She arched into his touch, her body's response impossible to hide. "None of this was expected. You were supposed to be an experiment, a chance to save my people. But now you're everything." The admission broke free before she could stop it. "My research, my mission, my people's future. It's all tangled up with how I feel about you, and I can't separate them anymore." Jason pulled back enough to meet her gaze. "Then don't." "What?" "Don't separate them." His expression grew serious. "Your people need genetic compatibility to survive. I'm living proof it's possible. So why not take it further?" Her heart stuttered. "What are you suggesting?" "You know exactly what I'm suggesting." He caught her face in his hands. "Let's give your people a real future. Not just experiments and stolen genes, but something new, something ours." "You want children?" The word felt explosive in her mouth. "Jason, the implications would be revolutionary." His thumb stroked her cheeks. "Think about it. Proof that our species can truly bond, create life together. No more secret experiments, no more dying race. A new beginning." Lorania trembled under his intense gaze. "You can't know what you're offering. The commitment, the risks." "I know enough." His fingers traced her glands again, making her shiver. "I know that every time you fed me, I felt more connected to you. I know that what started as your experiment has become something neither of us expected, and I know that I want more." "Jason," her voice broke on his name, "my people, they wouldn't understand. Humans are considered beneath us, barely worth studying. A child, ... would prove them wrong." He pressed his forehead to hers. "Show them that we're not just compatible, but meant to be." Her laugh was shaky. "Always so confident." "Someone has to be." His hand slid lower, exploring. "Besides, you've already changed me, made me more like you. Isn't this the logical next step?" "There's nothing logical about this." But she was melting into his touch, her body responding with increasing urgency. "About us. Maybe that's why it works." He found the zipper of her medical uniform. "Now, doctor, I think it's time for my treatment. The direct method this time." She should resist, should remember protocols and propriety. Instead, she let him peel away her uniform, exposing violet skin that seemed to glow in the dim light. "Beautiful," he breathed, tracing the bioluminescent patterns that spiraled across her flesh. "You've been hiding all this from me?" "Professional distance," she managed, then gasped as his mouth found her glands. "Jason, no more distance." His voice was rough against her skin. "No more hiding. Show me everything, Lorania. Every part of you." She surrendered then, letting her alien nature fully emerge. Her milk flowed freely as he drank, each pull sending waves of pleasure through her system. Their bodies entwined, human and alien merging in ways her research had never predicted. I love you, she whispered in her native tongue, knowing he wouldn't understand. Not yet, but soon, with enough of her essence in his system, he would. Soon they would be truly one. His response was to pull her closer, drinking deeper, their bodies moving in ancient rhythms that transcended species. In that moment, she wasn't a scientist or less a savior of her race. She was simply his, as he was hers. Weeks turned into months as their bond deepened. Lorania's research took an unexpected turn when the first signs appeared. Her body was changing, adapting in ways her species hadn't experienced in generations. She was pregnant. In her lab, surrounded by displays showing the miraculous fusion of their DNA, she broke the news to Jason. It worked, she whispered, hands pressed to her slightly swollen abdomen. We actually did it. Jason's face lit up with wonder. A baby? Our baby? The first successful human Lorani hybrid in recorded history. She pulled up the genetic scans. Look, and the DNA strands are perfectly integrated. My people's council is calling it revolutionary. I take it they've gotten over their prejudice against humans? His arms slid around her from behind, hands covering hers over their growing child. Amazing what a biological breakthrough can do for interspecies relations. She leaned back against him. Though I think you winning over half the medical staff helped. Just half? Dr. Thompson still thinks I'm insane, but she was smiling. The rest are too busy studying our success to judge. The pregnancy progressed faster than a human's, but slower than her species' norm. Each week brought new discoveries as their child developed, showing traits from both parents. The genetic stability is remarkable, she explained during one checkup, showing Jason the latest scans. Our baby has taken the strongest traits from both species. My people's regenerative abilities, your human adaptability. And hopefully your looks, he teased, touching her violet skin. Though maybe not the tentacle hair. Tendrils, she corrected primly, and they're quite fashionable where I come from. News of their success spread through the medical community. Soon other Lorani healers began arriving at the station, eager to study the breakthrough that could save their species. You're going to be famous, Lorania told Jason one night as they lay together, her belly now prominently rounded. The human who helped save an alien race through love. Pretty sure you did most of the work. His hand traced patterns on her stomach, feeling their child move. I just crashed my ship at the right place and time, and drank my milk without asking too many questions. Hey, when a beautiful alien doctor offers you miracle medicine? She laughed, then caught her breath as the baby kicked. Strong, like its father. Stubborn, like its mother. The birth, when it came, was surprisingly smooth. Their daughter emerged with violet-tinted skin and human eyes, a perfect blend of both worlds. As she nursed for the first time, instinctively finding Lorania's glands, the new mother felt tears slide down her cheeks. She's perfect, Jason whispered, watching them with awe. She's hope, Lorania corrected, for all of us. The medical bay was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitors and the gentle sounds of their newborn daughter. Jason cradled her carefully, marveling at how her violet-tinted skin seemed to shimmer under the lights. Her human eyes, his eyes, taking in everything with newfound wonder. Lorania watched them from her bed, her silver eyes soft with emotion. You know, you've done more than just recover from a crash landing. You've saved me, saved my entire race. And here I thought I was just signing up for some unusual medical treatment, Jason quipped, gently rocking their daughter as she cooed. Lorania laughed, the sound like chimes in the wind. Oh, this is just the beginning. Brace yourself. She's going to be every bit as stubborn as her father. With her mother's charm, I hope. Their daughter reached up with tiny fingers, her skin shifting color slightly in response to emotion. Another unexpected gift from their genetic merger. Outside the medical bay window, the stars stretched endlessly, promising new horizons for both their species. Dr. Thompson entered, pausing at the sight of them. His initial skepticism had gradually given way to reluctant amazement as their success became undeniable. The council wants to document everything, he said, but his usual gruffness was softened by the scene before him. You've made history, all of you. We've made family, Lorania corrected, reaching for Jason's hand. The history was just a bonus. Their daughter chose that moment to demonstrate her hybrid heritage, her skin glowing softly as she drifted to sleep. A perfect symbol of two worlds united, of love transcending biology, of a future neither species had imagined possible. Until a pilot crashed into the right doctor's medical bay, and science gave way to something far more powerful. Word of Jason and Lorania's success spread quickly through the Lorani homeworlds. The scientific journals first, dry reports of genetic compatibility, successful hybridization, and cellular stability. But it was the images that truly captured their people's imagination. A healthy hybrid child, proof that their species could survive. The Lorani High Council convened an emergency session. Centuries of genetic decline had left their population dwindling, their children growing weaker with each generation. Now displayed on the grand screens of their assembly hall was hope incarnate, a violet-skinned infant with human eyes, stronger than any pure Lorani child born in decades. The genetic markers are extraordinary, the chief geneticist reported, her voice trembling with excitement. The human adaptability combined with our regenerative capabilities has created something entirely new, something viable. Cities across their worlds erupted in celebration. Ancient temples, long silent, rang with prayers of thanksgiving. Their species had stood at the brink of extinction, and now a path forward had opened, through the very humans they had once dismissed as inferior. More couples came forward, eager to follow Jason and Lorania's example. The station became a symbol of renewal, a place where two species could forge a future together. What began as one doctor's desperate experiment had blossomed into a renaissance for an entire civilization. "Did you ever imagine," Jason asked Lorania as they watched their daughter sleep, "that our love story would save a species?" "No," she replied softly. "But then again, I never imagined a stubborn human pilot would change everything I thought I knew about healing." Their daughter stirred, her skin glowing softly with contentment, a living bridge between worlds and the first of many to come. The new era had begun. In the months that followed, Jason and Lorania transformed their personal breakthrough into something bigger. The station's medical wing expanded, becoming a center for human Lorani collaboration. Their daughter toddled through the halls, a living testament to what was possible when science and love intertwine. "We're receiving more applications every day," Lorania reported one evening, scrolling through her tablet. "Couples wanting to participate in the program, doctors eager to learn the techniques." "And here I thought I was special," Jason teased, bouncing their daughter on his knee. Her violet skin glowed with happiness, her human eyes sparkling. "Oh, you're still my favorite test subject." Lorania set aside her work, moving to join them. "Though I suppose I should stop calling you that now that you're running half the program. Co-director sounds better." Speaking of which," she leaned close, her silver eyes gleaming, "I believe you're due for a treatment." "Am I?" His pulse quickened at her proximity. "I thought I was fully healed." "Remember the rules, pilot." Her fingers traced his jaw. "If you want healing, just close my eyes?" He smirked. "And if I don't want to, then no more personal medicine for you." She pulled back with a teasing smile. "I'm sure Dr. Thompson would be happy to take over your care." "Now that's just cruel." He caught her hand, pulling her back. "Though I have to admit, your bedside manner has improved significantly." Their daughter giggled, her skin shifting colors in response to their playful banter. Around them, the station hummed with activity, human and Lorani doctors working together, new couples arriving full of hope, a future neither species had imagined possible slowly taking shape. "We did it, didn't we?" Jason said softly, looking at their little family. "Actually changed everything. We're still changing it." Lorania touched their daughter's glowing cheek. "Every day, every couple, every child born, it's all part of something bigger. And it all started because you decided to experiment on a crashed pilot. Best experiment of my life." She kissed him softly. "Though don't let the council hear me say that. They prefer to call it groundbreaking xenogenetic research." "Romantic bunch, aren't they?" Their laughter echoed through the medical bay, joining the symphony of hopes and dreams that filled the station. Outside the viewport, Stars blazed against the darkness, no longer barriers between worlds, but bridges to a future where love knew no biological bounds. And it all began with a simple instruction. If you want to heal, just close your eyes. Dear listeners, this tale of Jason and Lorania goes beyond mere romance between species or scientific breakthrough. It speaks to the core of what makes us human and what makes us more than the sum of our biological parts. In a universe where differences often divide us, their story reminds us that love can bridge the seemingly impossible. A crash pilot and an alien doctor showed us that healing comes in many forms, and sometimes the most powerful medicine isn't found in traditional treatments, but in trusting what seems foreign and unknown. Their journey from patient and doctor to pioneers of a new era teaches us that great changes often begin with small acts of trust, like closing our eyes and believing in something we cannot see. Remember, when faced with the unknown, sometimes the bravest thing we can do is simply close our eyes and trust. The future belongs to those who dare to look beyond surface differences and see the potential for connection that lies beneath. May their story inspire you to find your own bridges between worlds, whether they be personal or universal. After all, every great change begins with a single moment of trust. Keep your hearts open to the unexpected. You never know when your own story might change the universe.